LinkedIn here soon. It's getting ready. Okay. And I always pick on somebody just before we go live, and I pick on them, and I'm going to pick on you, Jeffrey. Okay, here we go. Come on, you. Let's wait for that page to load. Load it again. Here we are. Okay, everybody, wave hello. LinkedIn, wave hello. Facebook, wave hello. Mickey, wave hello. Wave hello. Okay, we're ready.
Feed.
Thank you,
show.
Jordan. Okay, here we go. Dance with me.
Welcome to Read My Lips Radio.
Takiyah, I want you to
lively
dance
hour
with
of
me.
Unscripted conversations with savvy creatives. Producer and host, akaRadioRed, asks novelists, artists, photographers, designers, comedians, actors, musicians, composers, screenwriters, directors, and technology innovators about their creative passion, inspirational muses, and how they create. Ooh, how those lips can talk. Now, here's akaRadioRed.
Radio Red in the house. My goodness, I have an update on LinkedIn a couple hours ago. I promoted that it was a balmy 94.8 degrees Fahrenheit here. For those of you in Canada who don't use Fahrenheit, perhaps. Well, I have to update that. It is now 101 degrees here. Just so you know. So it's one of those balmy days in Tennessee, and I think we share this temperature. I've talked to my radio engineer, some people at Voice America the other day, and they told me it was a balmy 114 going down to 108. So we are in the heat of summer. Just wanted you all to know. But this is Read My Lips, cool conversations with creatives. So we're going to stay cool and keep you cool. Radio Red here. Where else would I be on Monday afternoons? Happy to be here. And I'm talking to people who are creative. That doesn't mean they're singers and dancers and artists. That means they're creating their lives, how they look, how they talk, what they do for a profession, what they do for hobbies, how they do their pastimes, what their lifestyle is. We're all creatives as far as Radio Red is concerned. Guess before I introduce you, I want you to make the shape of the letter L with your hand, please. Hand up. There we go. There we go. Good. And on the count of 3, follow me at the same pace. We're going to say hello, L, L, L. 1, 2, 3. Hello, L, L, L. Not bad. Jordan's my engineer. Jordan, would you put them in there kind of in second place for the most coordinated LLLs? Not too bad. Last week was better, but you're still in the running for the top 5. LLL is lovely, lanky Laura Legs. She's our most loyal listener. She's at her boyfriend's birthday party tonight, but she will hear the show on demand. And every Monday night at 6:01 p.m., Takiyah, Laura will email me a little mini book report on what you said and what Mickey said and what Jeffrey said. She listens to the show and she loves it. And she calls me beautiful, gorgeous lady of red. So that's why I like her. I've known her for about 20 years, and she's our reporter for the show. So there you go. So let's see. It's July 15th already. It's the 196th day of 2024. Gregorian calendar used to be Julian, and Gregorian Pope Gregory didn't like that so much, so he changed it. We're happy for that. 169 days left. It's the 29th Monday, and nobody cares about that except me. And we have a special guest here. Before I do my opening poem, I have to tell you, Mickey Mikkelson is with us today. And Mickey is the PR, I'm going to say genius. Don't let it go to your head, Mickey. Look how cute he looks. He's the person who sends me about 20 or 30 author guests a year for this show. So I'm very grateful to you, Mickey, for your friendship and your kindness. And you always send me really, really interesting people. And I marvel at how you keep I'm going to use this word advisedly, a stable of really smart people as your clients. So I'm talking both to Takiyah and Jeffrey here. So Mickey, that's an official thank you for Read My Lips Radio to you and Creative Edge Publicity. There we go. So I have collaborated with ChatGPT. Jeff, Takiyah, Mickey, anybody use ChatGPT besides me? Anybody? No? Oh my goodness. Oh, Takiyah does. Okay.
Love it.
So here we do. I said to it, here are the bios of the full bio. And you get up to 1,000 characters for a bio with me, Jeffrey and Takiyah and Mickey. I put it all into the input, and I said, I need Read My Lips, Radio Red, and we're calling this the forces of creativity. You're all the force of creativity. Please write me an opening poem. It sent me a poem, and then I took time as a human to edit the poem. You're going to hear the edited version in a minute. How long do you think it took for ChatGPT to respond? Mickey, seconds or minutes? Hold up their fingers. Tell me seconds or minutes.
Seconds.
3.
30.
30. 30. Okay, Jeffrey, how long did it take for it to respond?
7 seconds.
Okay, Takiyah?
40 seconds.
Okay, you're all wrong. It takes less than 2 seconds for it to respond. I hit the submit button with this much text. I mean, full bios for all of you and the name of my show and everything. And it takes less than 2 seconds. It used to be 3.2 seconds and it was 2.2. It's now less than 2 seconds. It's about a second and a half. I barely hit send and it has the poem on the screen for me. It's unbelievable. So let me read the poem. This is the edited version. I'm not telling you how much time it took me to edit, but here we go. So, and when I call your name, wave hello. Welcome to Read My Lips Radio, where creativity does flow with akaRadioRed and her Scarlett mic in the live streaming glow. Today, we dive deep into the forces of creativity's embrace with creative guests whose passions we'll showcase. Jeffrey A. Carver, wave hello. A sci-fi master with vast worlds to explore. From reefs of time to crucible of time, his tales soar. From Ohio's shores to the universe's boundless space, his love for character and story transport to an awe-filled place. With the Frank Herbert Lifetime Achievement, his talent is crowned, teaching writing far and wide. Jeffrey's imagination knows no bound. What'd you think?
Well, it's awesome. I'm
Okay.
not sure how well it's scanned, but it's great.
I rent these
great.
poems out. I'll work on a price for you. Mickey will get a group price for you. Takiyah Smith is with us, a San Franciscan with a creative heart. From business and merchandise at FIDM, she made her bold start. An entrepreneur with a mission to inspire and empower. Through books and events, her passions do flower. Her book, Single Mom in the City, guides mothers with care, and her coloring books for kids inspire them to dream as they dare. Takiyah, what'd you think?
Way to go, Chat GPT and Lady Red.
And Mickey Mikkelson, a maestro of literary fame, publicist and founder, savvy voice in the PR game. From bookstores to finance, his journey is vast, championing artists, helping legacies last. With Creative Edge Publicity, Mickey leads the way, promoting talents whose stories make our day. Mickey, what'd you think?
Jim Morrison would be very, very envious of you.
So let me finish. Join us, dear audience, in our creative quest with akaRadioRed, as always, bringing her best. The forces of creativity on this July 15th day, with stories to inspire you to create and to play. What do you think? Thumbs up, kids? Like it?
Love
Good.
it. Love
I have
it.
a lot of fun. I do this for my Technology Revolution show on Wednesday too, but it always shocks my guests that we're all high-level techie people, nerds, geeks like me, and they love it too. So that's what I do. Thank you very much. It took less than 1 second, 1 second and a little spit there for that whole thing to come back, and then I edit it, and that's part of the fun of why I do it. So let's go around the table. Jeffrey A. Carver, I'm delighted to have you here. I enjoyed our back and forth with all of your input for the show. I'm putting you on speaker view. Would you please regale us with your creativity bio? We want to get to know you. Jeffrey, you're on speaker view. Go ahead.
My creativity bio. Well, I grew up in Huron, Ohio, and that's where I learned to love science fiction. I've been loving science fiction and writing it my entire life. And that's where I got my start. And now I live on the East Coast. I came to the East Coast to attend Brown University and University of Rhode Island. And I loved it here so much that I stayed. I love the ocean. I love everything about the ocean, including diving down into the depths of the ocean, which I've done a fair amount of in past years. And that also connects very intimately with my creative impulses, because sometimes diving feels a lot like being in outer space, especially when you dive at night and you move around your hand around and you see plankton sparkling in the night. So that all these things like this boost my creativity. I don't get to see the stars so much anymore because I live in the suburbs of Boston, but I still think about it a lot, and my thoughts take me there in my stories. So if I can't travel there in person, I can travel there through my stories and take my readers with me.
Thank you very much. Please explain what we're looking at in your phenomenal background, Jeffrey. What is that?
That is a cover from part of the cover from my novel, The Reefs of Time. It was painted for me by a fellow named Chris Howard, who is both an author and an artist and a software engineer, and was one of my students in a science fiction writing workshop. And he's done several terrific covers for me since.
That is beautiful. Really, really beautiful. Thank you for using that as your background. I'm very impressed.
Thanks. I love it. I love it.
And nice to meet you. And I lived in Cambridge, Mass for a few years.
Wonderful.
And New Haven, Connecticut, and I'm a New York native. So when you say East,
Okay.
I'm there. I don't have an
Yeah.
accent, though. I don't have a New York accent. I've never been accused of that. A little bit of Pennsylvania. My mom was from Scranton. So
Well,
I
I'm
got a
sitting
little.
less than a mile from the Cambridge border right now. So
There you go. I lived in North Cambridge and I
Mhm.
commuted by whatever the tram or whatever it was to BU
Mm-hmm.
and finished my degree at BU. I was a young mom at the time. So interesting memories of that. So thank you
Wonderful.
very much. And Takiyah Smith, why don't you unmute? And we would love to hear your story, Takiyah. And I love your background too. And you'll tell us what that is. Go ahead. You're on speaker view. Welcome.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Let's see. So I've always loved writing at a young age. Like I started off with poetry. That was always like kind of my thing, starting at elementary school, I would say. I just love writing poems of things that inspire me in my life, just everyday things, whatever I was passionate about in the moment, I would write poetry about. And let's see how my book writing came to be was it was just it was an inspiration that I got. My first book was Single Mom in the City. And though I had never written a book, it was something that I knew I can do because I just had that inspiration and that passion around being a mom and around sharing the things that worked around motherhood so that especially first-time moms wouldn't have to go through a lot of the learning curve, trial and error that I had to go through. So I did all the research and put in the best things for new moms within my book. I don't have it back in my background, but I have it here. Let's
Here you
see.
go. Yeah, we
So-
got it.
Yes, and then in my background, this was my second book, my coloring book. I Love Me, Colorful and Creative. It's for girls. And then I created the boy version, the reciprocal of it. So it has empowering words of I am affirmations on every page, things that inspire. And the first book, the girls book, was actually inspired by my daughter and her life and the things that she has, the activities that she's done up throughout her life up to the point of this book, as well as things she's aspired to. So the cover design, it was I had a graphic designer create the imagery, but all of the imagery was either images of my daughter or images from online where I had like part of the body. I want this face, this hair, this body, this pose. And so as you see, my daughter did the drums, she swam, she played tennis. And then, yeah. And I'm so happy to be here.
Very cool. We're happy to have you too. Your covers are beautiful. And what I love about them, Takiyah, is that they show activities. They're a preview to what's inside the book. Very, very, very well done. I love the colors and I love the energy. Your covers have energy. And I think that's really important, right, Mickey, to convey something that's going to happen. Like Jeffrey, your covers obviously are having some people and beings and energy and force fields. I'm probably saying the wrong thing, but very, very nice. Takiyah, thank you so much for joining us. And let's go to Mr. Mikkelson. You haven't been on the show yet, except for a 2-minute cameo a couple of
Yes.
years ago. It's long overdue. I'm sorry whoever you had scheduled couldn't make it, but you jumped in and said, pick me, Red. And I said, sure, you're welcome. So here you go. Mickey, give us the lowdown. Who is Mickey Mikkelson? It's about time. Welcome.
And I'll get to that. But first and foremost, I want to say thank you for all the support you've given us the
Oh.
last 3 to 4 years
My
in
pleasure.
terms of everything. I mean, and I'm really honored. This is a special day for me just because I get to like be here with two of like my favorite people in the world and have you as a host. It's just an amazing time. So
You're
I just
very,
want to
very
just say that.
kind. You're very kind. Thank you. Now tell us about Mickey.
Yeah,
We want to
so
know.
my journey's been different. I used to work as a special events person for Chapters Indigo, the largest bookstore chain in Canada. I am Canadian. Don't hold it against me. I know everyone here is in the US. It's ironic because I represent more US authors than I do Canadian authors, but this journey fell into my lap. I didn't know anything about publicity. I didn't know anything about books. I still read comic books today, not really a novelist. And I was working in the corporate sector, in the credit union world, in the banking world, in the finance world. One of my coworkers wrote a book, and me sticking my foot in it basically said, I can help promote you. So we did that. We got 8 signings for her in the span of 2 months. We got her some press, not knowing a single thing. And then I had between 10 and 15 other authors who I knew from Indigo reach out to me and say, can you do the same thing for me? So I opened up a little business. That was in 2015. I went full-time in 2021. We now have, well, I'm not going to use stable because that's like derogatory, but we have a client base of over 100. We represent 3 New York Times bestsellers. We represent 3 USA Today bestsellers. I'm the sole publicist for 7 small publishers. And we represent client base across every genre you can think of outside of erotica, because I don't touch that standard. So that's what I do. And that's what we have been doing. And it's been very, 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 very good overall. That's me in a
Mickey,
nutshell.
I didn't know how you started, quite by, as you said, you fell into it. Very, very
Yeah.
interesting. It's that can-do attitude. I think, Takiyah, you had never written a book and you said, I can do this. I know what I'm doing. And Jeffrey, there was probably a point where you said, I can do this. And there was a point where I said, shy me, I can create and host a radio show and I could talk to a lot of people. I have 2 shows all together with 7 guests a week, 3 on this one and 4 on my Wednesday show. I can live stream. So I think the idea of can do, the energy, the curiosity leads to our creativity. What would you all agree with that? There's something about being curious. What would it be
100%.
like if? What do you think?
100%.
Jeffrey, were you?
Totally.
Yeah.
Curiosity has led me to many of my stories.
Yeah, curiosity's led me to this career. So, and by the way, Takiyah, I'm a drummer too, and I want you to tell your daughter I have
Me too. Me too.
sparkly red Ludwig set that hasn't been used in a year and a half. It's sitting in what used to be the dining room of this house. We got to get together a drum band, okay?
I
So,
love that.
I have a pair of timpani in my basement, so I will join your drum band
ooh, I've
if you
got some
allow me.
nice Zildjian cymbals,
Yeah.
and I've got a sign that lights up. A different name I use on that. So yeah, I was the MC and co-drummer and then drummer of a 12-piece Motown band in Durham, North Carolina. And I had my own open mic night for the community. Did my own open mic where we got about 12 musicians and 30 to 40, shall we say, happy people on Friday nights who were very happy, and they came and danced and they sang and they pulled up the lyrics on their phones and they sang along and we had a blast. So yes, curiosity was, can I do my own open mic? Like, heck, of course I can. So there you go. Thank you all for the bios. I'm twice as thrilled to have you. I thought you'd be good. Now I know you are. Let's go to the opening quotes. Jeffrey A. Carver, I'm looking at your quote. This is an interesting one. I'll read briefly and then you'll tell us what this has to do with what you do. The quote is from Captain James T. Kirk, played by the one and only outer space traveling William Shatner. I think he was almost 90 when he went on to the moon. Star Trek sci-fi TV series 1966. This is from season 1, episode 23. The episode was called A Taste of Armageddon. It originally aired February 23rd, 1967. The crew of the Enterprise visits a planet engaged in a completely computer-simulated war with a neighboring planet, but the casualties, including the Enterprise crew, are supposed to be real. Oh, my goodness gracious. So here is the quote Jeffrey has selected. Sometimes a feeling, Mr. Spock, is all we humans have to go on. Jeffrey, what does this got to do with you? Talk to me.
Oh, wow. That wasn't a great Star Trek episode, but it was a great quote. And feelings are at the heart of most of my stories. I write what is often called hard science fiction by many people, which means there's a lot of science and extrapolation in it. But really what's at the heart of my stories is the heart of the characters, what they want, what they need, what they're forced to confront. And they deal with it, and sometimes it goes deep, cuts deep into the heart of their emotional being, and they discover things about themselves. So that really struck me. Kirk, the impulsive one, to Spock, the intellectual one. Feelings count. Feelings are part of the equation.
What's your inspiration for your sci-fi characters, Jeffrey? Are they modeled after people you know? Are they modeled after things you see in the movies, TV characters, other books? Where does this come from? You're creating deep characters. Yeah, go ahead.
You've just named some of them.
Okay.
My characters come from everywhere. I can't single out a single, with the exception of some occasions where I deliberately put people I knew in as minor characters. They come from my head. They come partly, there's a little bit of me in each one of them. I don't think I could write a character that didn't have a little bit of me in them, including some very weird aliens. But this is where the creativity comes in, pulling together threads from just everything I read, everything I hear, everything I watch, everything I experience, when I'm out walking, when I'm with people. Somehow, through a process I do not understand, those things come together in my head and form the characters that are part of my story. And I get to know them as I write the story. I'm not one of these people who can like map out the characters and here's where they went to school, here's what they did, here's what they're like. I have to learn it as the story develops.
So you're a pantser, you're not a plotter, correct?
I prefer to say I'm a discoverer.
Oh, I like that. Yes. I like that. Okay. Pantser is somebody who writes by the seat of their pants. A plotter is somebody who may outline the whole book, everything except the dialogue. Do your characters speak the dialogue to you, Jeffrey? Do they tell you what they want you to say? Because I'm a playwright, and my plays, my characters told me exactly what to say. I just sat there. I was the channel. I was the conduit. They just talked to me. Do they do that to you?
On occasion. I know of writers who have told me how characters have just spoken aloud through their fingers and they went, that hasn't really happened to me. I don't know. I think I put myself into their head as best I can and write what feels natural. But I do feel that I'm part of that generative process. So I think it would be kind of cool if a character did sort of come to life and surprise me by what they said.
It's fun.
Maybe that'll happen in the next book.
Keeps you up all night. Yes, I was writing from 1 to 4 in the morning, 3 nights, and I had my play and I produced it on my TV show, 3 of them. A lot of fun. Takiyah, I'm looking at your quote. This is a classic. It was said by Jedi Grandmaster Yoda, puppeteered and voiced by Frank Oz. Star Wars, of course, Episode 5, Roman numeral V, The Empire Strikes Back, 1980 American epic space opera film. I still haven't figured out what a space opera is. This is Yoda's most memorable quote in all of Star Wars. Everybody knows what Yoda is. Yoda is described as the mentor of Obi-Wan Kenobi and lives in exile on the swamp planet of Dagobah. He trains Luke Skywalker in the ways of the Force. Yeah, that's why I call this partly the forces of creativity. See, Takiyah, how it all comes together. Until his death at age 900. God bless him, in Return of the Jedi, though he later returns as a Force spirit. By the way, the cast and crew thought the film would be a failure. And George Lucas formed his own visual effects company to help create the special effects. It went $3 million over budget. There you go. Here is the quote, and you're going to tell us what this has to do with your creativity. Do or do not. There is no try. I do a terrible, terrible Yoda. Okay, Takiyah, take over. Help me. Go ahead.
Yes, it's just that simple. You either are going to do something or you're not going to do it. Yeah, try is just, I don't know, a figment of an imagination. Like Nike says, you just do it. There's no trying. You just start. And so that's my my outlook on my writing. I just do it, and there's no should I or should I not. Like, I just get the inspiration with all of my books. Like, the inspiration came from somewhere, like whether it was in part my life, the things that my interactions in life, the things that I've read, the things that I've watched or listened to, podcasts, YouTube. So the inspiration has come from all around me. And sometimes it just, in writing, sometimes I wasn't sure what I was going to put in a certain section, but the inspiration just came to me and I wrote it, I jotted jotted it. Is that a word? I don't know.
Yes,
Down.
it is.
Jotted it, I don't know, down if I was out in the world, if I wasn't, necessarily in front of my computer typing, and then later go back. So that's my philosophy to writing and to pretty much everything that I do. And if you ask my daughter, she'll know that I don't like the word try and I don't like the word can't. You just do it.
Perfect. I was going to say that's a buzzword that since Yoda said it, it became so popularized. It's become a buzzword in living your life. I'll try to do this. I'll try to see you next week. I'll try to write that. I'll try to cook that recipe. Do or do not. You either. I was trained in digital math back in the ones and zeros. The light is either on. Forget about the dimmer switch. The light is either on or it's off. It's a 1 or it's a 0, right, Jeffrey? Right, Takiyah? Right, Mickey? One or the other. Make up your mind and do it. If you're not going, and you know what? Saying no is a decision, right, Takiyah? Saying I'm not going to do it is a choice. It's a decision. Yes, go ahead, Jeffrey.
Well, you asked if I agreed with the 1 or 0, and I'm kind of a quantum guy. There are superpositions where it's both, where it's in between. So I actually, there's a lot of power in that, in Yoda's phrase, but there's a lot of power in recognizing that there are all kinds of in-between states and peripheral states, and that can be really important in your storytelling too, to recognize that. And in your own creativity, when things are going, to be a little kind to yourself and say, all right, I'm working through some uncertainty here, and I can live with uncertainty at times. So I just want to throw that out.
But just do it. Do the uncertainty. Experience the uncertainty. That to me is the on switch. Can we go with that?
Experience it for sure.
Okay, that's the plus side. I'm an early woman in tech, by the way, and Jeffrey, Takiyah and Mickey are too young. I was coding in COBOL on a Xerox Sigma 6 CP5 mainframe and keep punching cards, 2000 cards on the Hollerith 80 column cards way back in the day. We won't put a date on that. So I remember I was great at a core dump on green bar paper, and I still have my COBOL handbook, and then PL1 on an IBM 4341, where we actually had monitors to input our code. So I saw the graduation from one to the other. Let's move on before I get in trouble here. Mickey Mikkelson, you have sent me a quote from Like a Rolling Stone, the song by singer-songwriter Bob Dylan, 1965. Let me give you a little background. Confrontational lyrics originated in an extended piece of verse he wrote in June 65 when he returned exhausted from a tour of England. He distilled the draft into 4 verses and a chorus. It was recorded weeks later for the album Highway 61 Revisited. It completed the transformation of Bob Dylan's image from a folk singer to a rock star. It made #1 on Rolling Stone magazine's 2004 and 2010 500 Greatest Songs of All Time. It's been covered by Jimi Hendrix, by the Rolling Stones, by the Wailers, by Green Day. And here's what's interesting. In 2014, there was an auction, Mickey, and Bob Dylan's handwritten lyrics, the manuscript, sold for $2 million, a world record for a popular music manuscript. And here's the quote Mickey has selected. When you ain't got nothing, you got nothing to lose. You're invisible now. You got no secrets to conceal. Oh, Mickey, tell us, what does this have to do with your creativity?
Well, first and foremost, I wanted to find a Beatles song and I couldn't do it. So Bob Dylan was the second best option for this.
Good choice.
And I chose these lyrics specifically for this show because the messaging is true. And I tell my clients this all the time. You have nothing to lose. Anything you want to do, you do it. Don't second guess your branding. Don't question what you're writing, whatever you're performing. Don't question any of that. Risk is meant to be had, especially in the book industry. And so those lyrics, I picked those lyrics for this show specifically because the messaging is very, very clear on that. And if you buy into what Dylan's saying with those words, you're going to have success. I mean, I took a risk. I jumped into my company in 2015. Not knowing anything, not knowing a single thing about publicity. Had I questioned that and not did that, well, #1, I wouldn't be on this show today. Wouldn't be able to interview with all these wonderful people. I wouldn't be able to get to represent all these great people I work with in my media affiliates. So don't be guarded. Go with your stuff and believe in yourself. That's the key thing. It's not about the books. It's about the belief of the individual. So yeah.
I like that. Let that creativity, let it fly, let it come out, right? Let it rip, whatever it is. Don't be shy. Yep, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you all for the quotes. I'm now going to pick one or two creativity statements. You were all very gracious and generous and sent me four. Of course, I required it, but you still did it. So I thank you for that. I'm going to pick one or two. I will read the statements, and then I want you to take a couple minutes to unpack, like we're going to be on a news show, unpack them. And if anybody wants to make a comment, just wiggle one of your nice fingers at me and I will call you. So I've got one picked out for Jeffrey. I'm going to read it. You say, when I am writing, I am telling as best I can a story that I myself desperately want to read and no one else is telling. How do I know if it's any good? By whether it satisfies me as the final reader. I don't think I've ever had a guest say something just like that in years on this show, Jeffrey. I was very intrigued. So why don't you unpack this for us? Expand it, please.
That's very interesting because I thought that was one of my most state the obvious quotes to me is, how do I know what story I want to tell? Well, it's got to be something I want to experience. I'm going to spend a long time working on this book. I sometimes spend many years working on a book, and it better be a story that I really, really want to see how it's going to come out. So I don't know when I start writing what the story is. I'm a little bit like a reader sitting down going, okay, listen, I'm ready to start telling me the story. And then I have to both tell the story and find the story at the same time. And sometimes in the process of finding the story, I find myself going down a road that's just, all right, this isn't the story I thought I wanted to read. So I need to like maybe back up a little bit and start in a different direction, because there are a lot of detours in the writing process for me. I would say it's for everyone. And part of being able to get through to the end is knowing that you might go down some dead ends, and you might find yourself in the wilderness at times, and you have to find your way back to what the heart of the story is. And that's part of the, well, you have to have a passion for it to do it, because it's too painful if you don't really, really want to do it. And so who better to decide whether this is a good story than I'm the first reader. That's really it. I'm the first reader of the book, and I give myself feedback on it. And if I don't like what I see, I have to change it some. For the most part, I do. Once I get to the end, I go, yeah, subconscious, good one on you. You really did pull me through this. And this is a story. This is a story I like. Doesn't mean I don't have a lot of work to do to sort of pull that story out of the morass of the first draft, which sometimes wouldn't be a story that anybody else would want to read in that state then. But now I can see the thread of the story, and I can pull out the interesting bits and really carve this into the story I personally want to read, and I hope other people will too.
Thank you. Let me share a quick story. Takiyah or Mickey, have anything to say to Jeffrey? You're good? Okay.
Well, yeah,
go ahead, Takiyah, please.
I'll just add, like, I totally agree with that. That, I mean, there's a quote that Steve Jobs has. It was like in regards to Apple, and I don't remember what it was exactly. Like, I think they asked him if he did like testing, testing amongst people to see if like they would like the product. But he's like, people don't know what they want until you give it to them.
That's the quote. That's the quote.
Okay. So I totally like agree with that in that sense that, yeah, you have to love it and enjoy it, because how can you, I would imagine it'd be difficult to create something that you don't love personally. So I love what you said, Jeffrey.
Good point. Mickey, anything to add from your expertise with all of your clients, their books?
Just, and I've told everybody this, so I mean, Takiyah and Jeff have probably heard this before, but my advice always to new authors is never second guess what you're trying to write.
Mm-hmm.
Never try to be like the record company telling Pink Floyd they can't record Dark Side of the Moon because no one's going to get it. So, I mean, had they listened, that album would never have been made, and we would have lost out on something major. And so I always use that example when I'm telling my clients, don't worry about what the book says, or don't worry about what the people think of the book. If you believe in it and you want to write it, write it.
Do it.
Just make sure it's done professionally. Get it properly edited, pay for a decent book cover, but the story is yours. Don't be afraid to write that story if that's what you want to do. And I mean, ultimately, that's what I tell all of my people. And we have consistent personalities across the board as a direct result of that. I mean, Takiyah's not like Jeffrey, Jeffrey's not like Takiyah, but they all have the same mindset around their own works. And it's really, really refreshing.
Interesting. When I wrote my romantic comedy plays, I was in New York, and then I moved to Durham, North Carolina. And at some point, I decided I was going to run what I called a cold reading salon. I don't know if it existed anywhere in the world. I made it up, and I invited people to come. 25 people signed up, and we held it in one of the conference rooms at the rec center at the clubhouse. Big 35,000 square foot, beautiful clubhouse. Got a conference room, and I printed out that were not copyrighted, a Roald Dahl, and stories that were scripts for dialogues, for monologues, for groups, for small acts of plays that were free, publicly free. So I didn't take anybody's copyright for granted. And I printed them out and I threw them on a table. And I said to these 25 people, go up to the table, and the title of the whatever the book or the script was, and it says how many actors are needed for it and what the characters are right on the cover. And I had them pick. And I said, okay, now sit down. I'm giving you 5 minutes on the clock to look through what you picked. Okay, no give backs. That was it. Well, into that mix, I put one of my plays, a scene from one of my plays, Jeffrey. And somebody had picked it. I didn't know. And they got up and two people were reading this scene. I'm sitting there saying, damn, that's funny. I love those characters. And then it hit me. That's my play. So I was delighted, Jeffrey, that I was, in a way, the audience for what I had written 2 or 3 years ago that I'd forgotten about. And it played so well, and the characters were so beautifully defined, and it was so funny. So that was my measure that I had done something. That's as published as I've gotten. I did produce the plays for my TV show in New York, and they were well received. So anyway, riffing off on what you said, Jeffrey, I just wanted to share that. So let's go on. Takiyah, I'm looking at your statement number 2. This is interesting. You say, I listen to those internal nudges that I sometimes get when I'm driving. I've gotten so much inspiration for content from my first book while driving. Creativity's all around me. When it calls, I listen. When I got the idea to sign up for a belly dance class, go to fashion school, take a tennis lesson, and write a book, I didn't question it. I just did it. Do or do not, there was no try. Of course, these are all things I had interest in. I do my best to only engage in things that I love. Takiyah, give us about 3 minutes on this. What is this? Unpack, please.
Yes, I suppose that little internal nudge, some would call it our intuition, that little nudge that's pushing you in a direction ever so slightly, when you have an idea or a thought, or maybe you've been thinking about doing something, and then you happen to run into a person that's talking about they're doing exactly that thing. Yeah, it's a sign. Or whether it's like in terms of fashion school, I had always had the interest in fashion, and then I happened to see a commercial. Now, it wasn't of the exact school I had interest in, but it was a fashion school nonetheless. And it was like, that little nudge is like, well, let me look into that. And it's a reason why we get those nudges. It's telling us like we're going in the right direction, or good job. That little gentle push. And there have, like, just like with anyone, I think there's been times where I have not listened to my intuition, and I feel that 99% of the time, my intuition has been correct, in terms of like when I did listen to it. And the times that I didn't, it's like, Oh, I should have listened. I should have listened to my first mind. Those kind of, I think we've all had that. Like I should have listened to my first mind. Something was telling me to take that exit instead of that exit. Now there's all this traffic on the freeway. And so in terms of my writing, like absolutely, like at first I would hear, I would get a nudge and it'd be like, oh, an idea to put something in the book and be like, oh, that's great. Oh, I'll remember that. That's such an amazing idea. I'll remember that when I get home to my computer later. Did I remember it? No, it was, I thought the idea was so amazing and great. Why? Of course I'm going to remember it. So, from that point on, like I always jotted it down or recorded like a couple of sentences so I could remember. Because yeah, when I left it to my own memory, I did not remember. But yeah, I think it's important to whether it's God, whether it's the universe that are trying to assist in guiding us. I think it's important to listen. And I wonder if any of you have had that experience, if it's a similar experience to where you've had the nudge and you didn't listen and you should have. Like, what do you feel about your intuition that it's a thing and yeah, we should probably listen to it? What do you all think?
I want to read you a quote before Jeffrey and Mickey chime in. I want to read you a quote I jotted down. It's been in my radio notes for a couple of years. David Byrne, the rock star, he has a little thing called Little Beginnings. It's a trick. He was on somebody named Stephen Johnson's podcast, How Ideas Happen. And he said he finds inspiration and develops into songs. Listen to this, Takiyah. Sometimes I have just the title of a song that comes to me and I write it down and I go, expand on that. I think there's something there. And I also have in my computer a whole lot of musical ideas that maybe have a melody, a nonsense word melody, waiting for words. But usually I need something to start with. It's hard to start from nothing. I'll accumulate these very little beginnings. And when I come back, I've got something to build on. And then the rest of the article said, our minds fizz with fragments of ideas, puzzles to ponder, clues on how to fix a problem. Most of us undervalue that chatter. Writers and artists systematically capture the little beginnings. Takiyah, anything you want to say on that? And then Jeffrey and then Mickey?
Go. Totally relate to that. I'm the exact same way. Like even my first book title, Single Mom in the City, I didn't even know it was going to be a book. Just that title came to my mind. So or not even, it wasn't a title. It was just a phrase and I jotted it down and I didn't realize it was going to be a book until like maybe 3 years after like that idea came to me. So I totally agree. I have book titles, future book titles, like you said, just information, future ideas that don't even, I don't even know what it's for. So I totally agree. The value in writing those things down is just,
I saved that article because it just resonated with me. Jeffrey, resonate with you?
Absolutely. Those little nuggets, even particles of inspiration, can lead you to incredible things. Sometimes, most of my long novels have started with a tiny little bit of inspiration, and I have no idea where it's going. It's kind of like the grain of sand and an oyster that irritates and irritates, and the pearl grows around it. And there's a lot of irritation involved in growing that pearl, but that's what those little nuclei of inspiration can be.
Very well put. Mickey, thoughts?
Sometimes your heart and your head don't connect. They say different things. And you have to make a judgment call on which one you want to listen to at that time and really, really, really hope that you're making the right decision within that. I've learned that personally. I've definitely learned that professionally. I've made mistakes in my 8 years in doing this that I would never have made if I would have listened to the right gut emblems telling me the right thing. So, I mean, it's all about that. I mean, I've booked authors who said, you're going to get me in the New York Post and you're going to lead with that. And I've tried that and it never happened. They got nothing. And then I've booked debut authors who are brand new, spanking, trying out, and they want to do something, but their book cover's not good. And I've said, no, you need to do that. But no, Mickey, it's fine. And we'll go with it. And then we see no success. So it's really hard to pinpoint what the right method of travel is in your career, in your personal life, in anything. So I guess my mantra, I know I'm rambling, but I guess my mantra is follow a direction and stick that direction and see it through and go from there.
And have smart people in your orbit who can help guide you too. I think that's a message you've been giving about book covers and about getting things ready for what the next step is. Mickey, I want to read one of your statements here. We're not giving away any trade secrets, but I asked you what we do just for fun. What do you do for fun? I'm going to read two of your statements and see if these relate to what you do in your business. So you say, I love to watch classic films, specifically anything to do with Hitchcock or the wonderful Universal monster films from the 30s and 40s. I also love the British Hammer films from the 50s. And then you add, I'm an avid comic book reader, specifically Golden and Silver Age books. However, my all-time favorites are horror, war, and sci-fi titles. Hello, from EC Comics in the 1950s. Well, you weren't born in the 1950s. So what does this have to do with what you do creatively? Mickey, enlighten us, please.
I look at all kinds of things from a creative standpoint. It's a big reason why I love the Beatles. It's a big reason why I enjoy EC Comics, and a big reason why I like all those classic films. They're classic for a reason. They're very well known. They're very well made. They're very well documented. And I mean, from a creativity standpoint, whenever I'm talking with a new author I'm going to sign, I don't care about the books. It's going to sound bad. I don't care about the books. What I care about is the person who's writing those books and the person behind that. Because if I can build something within that individual and build out their branding, and I've done this over 110 times, I don't focus on the marketing of the book itself. I focus on the marketing of the individual. And if the marketing of the individual is done correctly, everything else in terms of success for the book will follow. It is a byproduct of what that individual is doing. Now, in the case of Dracula and the Universal horror films, it's the same thing. Anybody can make a vampire movie. Anybody. Independent, mainstream, whatever. It's the presentation of that film that makes the best sense. Again, EC Comics, best art in the world, best stories, highly regarded. Too bad they went out of business. But influentially, they're considered the greatest horror comics of all time. The reason they do that is because of the people behind them, not what's actually being put on the page. So that's what I look at when I'm talking with people and potential clients. I usually get between 10 and 15 people every month who want to work with me. I usually sign one or two of those individuals and call it a day, just based on the personalities and the vision of what they're looking at.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
Interesting. And that's why, I'm fussy when I ask people for a bio, and those on the show might have realized this, and they send me a list of all of everything they've written and where they've appeared and all their media appearances. I say, that's a CV. I want to know who you are. What's your origin story? How did you get to this point in life? Why do you write? Why do you do whatever you do? I'm looking for the persona, the personality, Mickey, and you know this. And that's why I'm fussy about bios. Tell me, where do you come from and what inspires you and what do you do? How do you create? Why do you create? So that's what I'm looking for. So we agree on that. I want to read you a couple of quotes I've collected on creativity, and then we're going to have some fun with some trivia. I've got about 8 minutes left. I got a lot to do here. So creativity quotes. Rapunzel, voiced by Mandy Moore in the movie Tangled, the 2010 American 3D computer animated musical adventure fantasy comedy film. Boy, is that a lot of genres or what? And they're not even hyphenated. It just goes on and on and on. The quote was, venture outside your comfort zone. The rewards are worth it. Can everybody give me a thumbs up on that one? What do you think? Yep. Okay. I like that. Here's another one. Oh, this is from the Rolling Stones, from a song from '69. You can't always get what you want, but if you try sometimes, you'll get what you need. That's the key, right, Takiyah? And here's one more. This might be for Takiyah and me, but it's for everybody. It's from Glinda, the Good Witch of the North, played by Billy Burke, from the original 1939 fantasy film, The Wizard of Oz. And the title, the quote is, you had the power all along, my dear. You had the power, right? That was Dorothy to get home in The Wizard of Oz. Now, let's have a little bit of fun here. I've got about 6 minutes left, and I want to read some. I have a quote here from Kobe Bryant. This is interesting. When you get in the zone, it's just a supreme confidence. Things just slow down. You do not try to focus on what's going on because you could lose it in a second. You have to try to stay in the present and not let anything break that rhythm. I think that's about writing. And Roger Ebert, the critic, said, when I write, I fall into the zone many writers, painters, musicians, athletes, and craftsmen of all sorts seem to share in doing something I enjoy and I'm expert at. Deliberate thought falls aside and it's just there. I think of the next word no more than the composer thinks of the next note. Jeffrey, does that resonate with you?
Yes and no.
Yeah.
Very often when I'm writing, well, let's say for 90% of drafting a novel, I'm not necessarily in the zone. I'm working at it. And then sometimes I'll hit a spot where, oh, all of these different elements are finally starting to come together and it's clicking. And then I hit the zone and then suddenly it starts to flow and I might write the last 100 pages in a tenth the time it took me to write the previous 50 pages, but
it's called being in the flow. Thank you. Let me read some of my trivia here. I have some fun stuff for all of you. July 15th, events in the music industry. 1950. On this day, Nat King Cole's song Mona Lisa, Mona Lisa hit #1. It won the Best Song Oscar from the film Captain Carey in the US. In 1952, a 13-year-old named Jimmy Boyd saying, I saw mommy kissing Santa Claus. That was in 1952. I hope I didn't kill that one. In the same day, 8-year-old prodigy Gladys Knight appeared on the Ted Mack Amateur Hour TV, which was a precursor to Star Search and American Idol. She performed Nat King Cole's Too Young. She won the $2,000 top prize. 8 years old, Gladys Knight, who we all know. The same day, what a day in history, Patty Page began a summer CBS TV replacement show. Perry Como, I don't know if anybody's old enough to remember, he had a time slot. She went on 3 times a week for 15 minutes to replace him on TV because he was on summer hiatus. Okay, let's move ahead. 1968, the Beatles started a new company called Apple. Entered its new corporate headquarters at 3 Savile Row in London, and then they did a famous rooftop concert. You may all be aware of that, especially Mickey, 1968. In 1978, Bob Dylan performed at the biggest open-air concert in history for a solo artist. He played for over 200,000 people at the picnic at Blackbush Airport in Hampshire, England. Okay. And on this date in 1983, the Saturday Night Fever sequel, Staying Alive, debuted in theater starring John Travolta, the Bee Gees soundtrack, 5 new songs. And let's see. Oh, here's one. In 2007, Prince gave away free copies of his album, Planet Earth. And the UK newspaper Mail on Sunday helped give it away. He sold out 21 shows at the O2 Arena in London, but the people who sold records retail were pretty pissed off with him. Okay, and one more thing. On this date in 2012, Psy's Gangnam Style video. Anybody remember Gangnam Style? Remember that one? It's posted to YouTube. They say he was egg-shaped, but he really could bust a move. He became a global sensation. I thought that was interesting. Okay, today, birthday, Ian Armitage, who played young Sheldon for all those years and all kinds of other TV shows. He's all of 16. Wonderful TV actor. Lana Parrilla, who likes to play bad people. She played the evil queen in Once Upon a Time and won the TV Guide's favorite villain award. She's 47. Gabriel Iglesias, the comedian whose comedy routine is called I'm Not Fat, I'm Fluffy, and Hot and Fluffy, jokes about his weight and his Hispanic heritage, wears Hawaiian shirts. Okay, he's birthday today. Brian Austin Green from Beverly Hills 90210 is 51. Scott Foley, I have a crush on him, actor and Whiskey Cavalier in all kinds of movies. He was married to Jennifer Garner. He's 52. Forrest Whitaker, best actor in The Last King of Scotland, and Linda Ronstadt, First Lady of Rock, is 78 today. Here we go. Let me see how many seconds I have. Oh, I got to hurry up fast here. YouTube. Say hello to Cora Bennett. She's 12 years old. Her family has 4.6 million subscribers. Mickey, that's something for you to aspire to. She's the youngest member of a YouTube vlogging channel called The Ohana Adventure, run by her parents, Rachel and Jace. TikTok today, Alexis Jacobo, 26. She has 2.1 million followers and 69 million likes. She posts decor. She posts her favorite beauty products, her favorite routines, and her style tips. Okay. 69 million likes. And Abby Herbert on TikTok is 28. She has 15 million subscribers, fashion and lifestyle. And the video of how she met her husband has only 1 million views. Today is Hug Your Kids Day, Don't Be a Dork Day, Clean Beauty Day, Get Out of the Doghouse Day, Give Something Away Day, I Love Horses Day, Pet Fire Safety Day, Tapioca Pudding Day, Orange Chicken Day, and Coral Reef Awareness Day. And we have to, and it's also Corn and Eggplant Month. I wanted to tell you that. Takiyah, in 2014, I had the top 10 tips for women. That year was the closing for my show. And the number one tip was aspire to be Barbie. The biatch has everything. And this was 10 years before the movie. And I brought that back. Here we go. Don't go away, guess we're going to talk after. Here we go. Life is short. Break the rules. Forgive quickly. Nah. Kiss slowly. Definitely. Love truly. Laugh uncontrollably. Laugh with me, everyone. 1, 2, 3. Oh, hurt yourself. And never regret anything that made you smile. Last words. Work like you don't need the money. Nobody cares but you. Dance like no one's watching. When I taught disco in high heels, they watch. Trust me. Sing like nobody's listening. Love like you've never been hurt. We all have. Get over it, right, Mickey? Get over it. Money talks. Chocolate sings. And last but not least, I stole this line from a host 20 years ago. Thank you for turning me on. Everybody wave goodbye. Jordan, are we done? Don't go away, guest. Jordan, are we out?
We are out.